6 months ago, I stood frozen outside my father's office. I wasn't eavesdropping. I had simply been walking down the hallway, coffee in hand, ready to ask if anyone wanted breakfast. Then I heard my dad's voice, cold, flat, certain. "Your sister?" he said to my brother. "She doesn't deserve a dime. She's out." Silence. Then my brother laughed softly. "And my mother?" She didn't object. She didn't hesitate. She smiled, not a surprised smile, not a nervous smile, a satisfied one. The kind of smile people wear when they think the game is over. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not shattered, not exploded, shifted. Because heartbreak is loud at first, then eventually it becomes quiet. And quiet is where clarity lives. My name is Jenna Cross, and if you've ever sat at a family table wondering whether you belonged there at all, then you know exactly what that silence feels like. Looking back, the signs had been there for months. Mom accidentally left me out of family photos. Dad kept saying I was too emotional whenever finances came up. My brother Chase only called when he needed help. I ignored it all. I told myself people act differently after loss. After all, Grandma had just passed away. I thought we were grieving. I didn't realize we were dividing, because while I was trying to hold everyone together, they were quietly planning life without me. That night, I packed my laptop, moved my savings into a separate account, and sat alone in my apartment replaying every conversation in my head. Then I remembered something. Grandma's dresser. Years earlier, she had looked at me and said, "One day you might need to check the bottom drawer." At the time, I laughed. Grandma always spoke like she knew things no one else did. Turns out she did. Inside that drawer, I found a small envelope, a flash drive, and a handwritten letter. I unfolded it carefully. It read, "Jenna, if you're reading this, trust yourself, love people, but never lose yourself trying to earn a place in their hearts. And remember this, truth has a way of arriving exactly when it needs to." I stared at those words for a long time, because suddenly everything felt different. Grandma knew, maybe not every detail, but enough. Enough to leave me something more valuable than money. Perspective. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Dad sat reading financial papers. Chase scrolled through his phone. Mom poured tea. "Morning," I said. No one looked up immediately. Funny how invisible you become when people assume they've already written your ending. I sat down quietly, then smiled. "You know," I said, "Grandma always surprised people." 3 faces looked up. Mom's smile tightened. Dad frowned. Chase raised an eyebrow. I reached into my bag and set the envelope on the table. Not dramatically, just gently. The room felt smaller somehow. "Turns out," I continued, "she left more than memories." No one spoke. I wasn't there to fight. I wasn't there to accuse. For the first time in my life, I was there to stop shrinking. Over the next few days, I met with Grandma's attorney. He handed me folders filled with documents and notes she'd organized herself. Everything was careful, intentional. Grandma had built her life thoughtfully, and apparently she had prepared for difficult days too. The lawyer looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "Your grandmother didn't leave you these things because she thought you needed saving." He smiled. "She left them because she believed you were capable." Capable, strange word. I had spent years feeling useful, helpful, responsible, but capable. No one had ever said that to me before. Not really. The following weeks felt surreal. Family dinners stopped. Texts slowed down. Conversations became awkward and careful. And for the first time, I stopped chasing people. I stopped sending the first message. Stopped trying to smooth things over. Stopped apologizing for taking up space. Instead, I focused on myself. I returned to work, started reading again, started sleeping better, started remembering who I was before I spent years trying to become what everyone else needed. Then, one afternoon, Chase called. His voice sounded different, smaller somehow. "Jenna," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I almost ignored it, but I answered, because healing isn't about building walls around your heart. It's about building boundaries around your peace. We met at a small coffee shop. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Then he looked down. "I think I got used to you fixing everything," he admitted. I stayed quiet, because some truths need room. "I never thought about what that cost you." That one hurt. Not because it was cruel, because it was honest. And honesty lands differently. I looked out the window for a moment. People walked by laughing. Cars passed. Life kept moving. Then I smiled softly. "You know what's funny?" I said. He looked up. "For years, I thought being needed meant being loved." He stared at me. "But they're not always the same thing." He nodded slowly. No defense, no argument, just understanding. Months passed. I focused on rebuilding, not businesses, not bank accounts, myself. I started volunteering at a mentorship program for young women, girls who constantly apologized before speaking, girls who felt invisible, girls who reminded me of someone, me. One evening after a workshop, a teenager stopped me before I left. She looked nervous. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I smiled. "Of course." She hesitated. "How do you stop caring what people think?" I thought about it. About my family. About grandma. About years of trying to earn love. Then I answered honestly. "You don't stop caring overnight." I smiled gently. "You just start caring more about what you think." Her eyes widened. And in that moment, I realized something. Maybe this whole journey had never been about inheritance. Not really. It wasn't about money, or property, or proving anyone wrong. It was about permission. Permission to stop fighting for seats at tables where I was never welcome. Permission to stop shrinking. Permission to choose myself. Months later, I visited Grandma's lake house alone. I sat on the porch as the sun disappeared behind the water. Wind moved through the trees. Everything felt still, peaceful. I opened her journal one last time. Inside, tucked between pages, was a sentence I'd never noticed before. "Roots grow strongest in places no one sees." I smiled, because I finally understood. People thought they had buried me under silence, under rejection, under expectations, but roots don't fear being buried. That's where they begin. And sometimes the people who try to write you out of the story accidentally hand you the pen. I closed the journal and looked out at the lake, then whispered, "Thanks, Grandma." Because they thought they were taking something away from me. But all they really did was help me remember who I was all along.